Watch the bottom and tell me how scary it is with this one.
Back on the road with my wonderful navigator. And here you see us winding up this road that we did for 10 days when we were in the glacier area with Pat and Paul. And you can see that we're leaving the Montana Pine Meadows RV retreat and we're going to the Indian Creek Campground. So we're carefully winding around these roads on the way up here, and we're watching traffic that's coming ahead of us, and we're cutting wide, and I'm thinking, man, this is really going to make some good footage because, you know, of course, I've got my GoPro mounted to the side of the rig. Well, maybe not. Sometimes things don't work out quite right in YouTube land. For instance, here, this is usually a busy road that I pulled out on, and this time it wasn't that busy. But right about the time I thought I was really lucky that I was able to get out here 1, 2, 3, I remembered the camera was still stuck to the side of the rig. So it was too dangerous for me to go out. So what I did was I sent Sue out there, and that's when we discovered I had forgotten to turn it on. I was really happy that this road that we traveled on many, many times bordered Flathead Lake because it literally was a beautiful ride that always delivered and never disappointed. Sue and I are retired, and we've been driving around now full-time in Myles for 4 years, and we realize we really have an advantage to not be in a hurry anywhere we're going. Most of our trips are planned to be in the neighborhood of about 4 hours, and that can vary plus or minus by as much as an hour, and that usually has either a fuel break included in it or just a rest stop for me to use the restroom and maybe for us to make coffee and grab a snack and a sandwich for the front area. And that's what you see happening here. It was about 2 years ago that Sue and I visited the Missouri State Penitentiary, and it was fascinating. So when we saw if we planned in properly to stay in the town of Deer Lodge, Montana, and booked an RV site at the Indian Creek Campground, that we would in fact be only a few miles from the old Montana State Penitentiary. So that's what we did here, and this is one of the few times that the Chan man did a little bit of satellite recon, and you'll notice that Tiffin motorhome had turned into the wrong spot there, but not the Chan man. He knew to do the zig, and then right after that a zag, followed by a zig, and I turned right into the campground and was ready to set up. So what the heck do you do now? Well, I got news for you. You send out the boss and let her check out the spot. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are looking at this campground and you're going, Mark, it's a gravel parking lot with a stick for a tree here and there. But you know what? When you're a tourist, like we keep saying we are, this is more than perfect. We actually stayed here 3 nights. The night we got there today, the night to tour the museum, and a night to get some editing and work done. Here we go. Let's go to the museum.
Leave the star behind.
I'm leaving the star behind. It is now July 22nd, 2021, and we're in Deer Lodge, Montana. We actually just left the Glacier National Park area yesterday. So we're heading east, and we decided to stop at Deer Lodge because just for a few days, but mainly because they have this old prison that you can tour, and we thought we'd like to see that. So a few years back, we actually saw the Missouri Penitentiary, which was closed many years ago too, and we found it just fascinating. So I thought, well, this might be interesting too. And I'm actually ready to go, waiting on Mark. But he actually was almost out the door before me, but he's wearing this white t-shirt. And for some reason, he just felt he should be wearing black. There's Mark, he's changing his shirt. He felt a white shirt was inappropriate for visiting a prison, so he's going to find a black one now. Oh, there he is.
Well, you know how it is sometimes. If you're just not feeling your outfit, you gotta change. And I wasn't feeling it. And I looked at you, and you had dark on, so now we match.
We match. Oh, is that why you changed?
Right. And the other thing I had to check on our download, it's looks like it's going to take 3 hours to download.
Ooh.
2 weeks from now, an episode. So
wow, why so long?
I don't know, and it's failed a couple times, and
boy.
so that's just the rigors of doing what we do. But
Yeah.
I do have the pump off, honey, and we're not hooked up to water, so I don't have to turn that
All
off.
right.
We might say that we've visited a number of prisons, both before we had a channel and now that we have one. We're very aware that it's not a funny subject, and yet when we go there, it's going to be interesting. We're going to have odd things that we're going to find, and you know, sometimes we'll say things, I'm sure, that might come off funny. We don't think it's funny. We do understand that there are folks that actually were residents for this, and I guess you just want to conduct your life so you don't
go there.
You don't end up going there.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, it's a piece of history that we find them fascinating, and let's get going and dive into it. You told the folks about the Auto Museum there as well, right?
Oh my gosh, I didn't. Oops, my bad. Here we go.
The wall that you're seeing here was actually built by the inmates over time, and I want you to notice how wide the curbing is here for you to park a Class C or even some fifth wheels parked alongside there during the time period we were there.
So we are at the Old Montana prison, which actually closed, I think, in 1979. And it closed because they moved all the prisoners over to a new facility that they built. But this one was built in 1871, so it's been around quite a while. And once they closed it, it is such a beautiful building and everything, they decided to turn it into a museum. And it actually does have 5 different museums in it. So let's go check it out. Were you looking at the crane?
Crane? It's a train with a T.
But look behind the train.
Oh.
I can't believe you missed that. Usually you've got eyes for cranes.
I'm trying to forget that chapter in my life.
Okay, let's go.
Trying to relax.
Let's go on to the prison.
Yeah, that'll be a lot more relaxing.
I think this was our first clue that this was going to be an awesome museum, because going left to right here, if you read all these little signs and placards, it really prepared you for what you were about to experience, and we did that.
So once again, here Sue and I are anxious to get inside prison. Come on in, Sue. Wow.
Not getting through that.
Yeah.
So they really do have a nice self-guided booklet here, and it does show you where you want to start.
Yep, we came out of the visitor center, and we're going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Make our way around.
Yeah.
And then in the booklet, they actually have different explanations and information about the areas.
Right.
So let's start with number 1.
So we're not going to bore you with all of the details, but if you go to page 1, like here, you could read
Montana
all this
prison.
stuff here. So we talked about this map and this guide, how handy it is. We just read about this building. Apparently, this building was originally built to house youths and men convicts, and it got damaged by an earthquake and they had to tear it down. But then they put a brand new building in here, and in that building it was a gymnasium and classroom buildings. And it must have been such a good building and constructed in such a way that when they built the new prison that replaced this prison, they took the building down and took it to the new prison.
What they did?
Yeah. Now, it said that when this did have the facilities for the men and the youths, it didn't have any running water. It was 2 stories, and in each of the cells they had 2 buckets. One for sewage and one for water. And it was recommended that you not mix them up.
Oh. Yikes. And actually, it's kind of good view right here. This wall was once upon a time wooden, and with the prisoners here, they used their labor and they constructed the wall around it.
It talks about the wall being 24 feet high in the area where the inmates are, and it's 3 feet thick at the top and 4.5 feet thick at the bottom, and it goes 4 feet down below the ground. And it said no inmates ever successfully tunneled under the wall, although they tried. One thing we're learning about this prison tour is this book is fascinating, telling us things, and this is the first time we ever went to a prison tour that had such an awesome book. You might look down below me, and as innocent as this looks, out of bounds, this was one of the systems throughout the prison that if by chance I wasn't accompanied by a guard and I walked across that line, I could technically be shot by the guard that would be in that guard tower there or over here. So these lines were very serious things to take into account. So we've interpreted our book as best as we can. Come on inside. This is the main way that prisoners, visitors, and even the guards, I think, inmates, guards, and visitors came only through this area. Let's see how it worked. You look at how massive this metal is here, Sue. I'm thinking that this wooden door is simply a replacement. And we're going to guess how this worked. After we read this, we think a key was shot down that tube to a guard in here when this door needed to open. And they would open this door and they would be able to come in this chamber. Then, over here, so now the people in this environment are looking through this door and they see that there's people in there that want to come in here or basically have to come in here. So then the key is shot down this hole, and the guard that's in here is able to open this door and allow the inmates, visitors, or guards to come from that door to this chamber. Now we're all in here, one happy family. We shut the door, we lock the door back up, the key goes back up the hole. Now we're waiting here, and the people that are out here, come on out here, Sue. So then the guard that's out in charge of this area, he would retrieve the key to this door over here. The guard from the shack up there would bring the key out. I don't know if they were on ropes or whatever. He would come over, undo this lock, and finally the 3 doors have been bridged, and now you're inside here.
So there's actually 4 keys involved. There's one more key in that front chamber.
Well, you're talking about the key to the
Trapdoor.
the trapdoor. Let's go in there. This trapdoor we're not going to talk too much about because we only know that it's unbelievably awesome. This trapdoor, once they go in there, they go into a tunnel system, and there's apparently really limited access on being able to get into that tunnel system on all sorts of areas that are protected and overlooked. So until we learn more of that on stop 26, we won't talk any more about it. Come on.
Moving on. So this administration building was actually the site of the first prison, but they eventually demolished it and replaced it with this administration building in 1931. A lot of changes throughout the years. Whoa. Hello. So we've got the visiting room. We'll find out what that's all about. Here we've got some shoes with concrete soles. And it says that they put them on inmates that were potential escapees. Interesting. All the contraband.
So apparently this is one of 2 styles to get a visit. You can either stand here with people on each side and you're trying to talk to the person that's visiting you.
And then this fence was not there,
Yeah.
was it? Or maybe it was.
Yeah, this fence was here, I'm sure.
So
and
you could contact. You could put fingers through, right?
Right, and the visitors would come through that door after they were strip searched, before and after the visit. You can imagine how satisfying your visit was here with this progressively finer and finer chicken wire and fencing here so that nothing could be passed through here. You get to the point where you can hardly see the person that you're talking to, but you know, if that's the trust level that you've given the prison that you're capable of, then you have to be here.
Yeah, I went in there, West Siberia, and it just felt really icky. I had to get out of there. Not good energy in there at all. So this area feels a little bit better to me. It's their open area field. You can get some physical activity going on here. So here in the yard, it was popular. They put a water fountain and urinal out here. But a lot of the inmates would actually carve their names in here too. We got this guy's been here 3 years.
So we can't go inside that white building there, but the brochure says that it's the tag plant and the hospital. So apparently in that building was the infirmary, the surgical hospital, the dental and psychiatric care, but then on one end they literally made license plates in there, just like you see in the movies. That's where they were making them. So here's a couple of pro tips, Sue. If you're going to be an inmate here, you got to get used to this. I've tripped over this a couple of times. I think I got it down. Over here, if this was my cell, I'd be moving this over. It is way too close to the toilet to be comfortable. You bend forward, you'd be hitting your head on here.
Oh my God.
I don't like that. The other thing is every time this door opens, make sure your hands are out of there. It's not OSHA approved for the fingers. So we're in a room that apparently originally was the bakery, and then they changed it to a chapel. And actually, if the inmates attended this regularly, they could get time off. But this is the first thing that we've come to notice. Remember when we first walked in, you had to go through that series of doors to be able to get in, and there was that trap door that went down into the tunnels that had very, very limited access. You can see these metal points here. You know, I guess if you're skinny enough you could get in there, but I can see right there is a metal door. So even if you can get into the tunnel system very quickly, you would be trapped in between doors. This is so that the guards could get real quickly to different areas and not have to go through the prison population. So they could be on Johnny on the spot when they needed to be somewhere. And it is kind of juxtaposition that somebody is in here with a gun and watching you while you're trying to worship.
So they would actually have guns pointing out of there.
Well, the way it's made,
Sounds like a gun port.
yeah, it is a gun turret hole if needed. You know, you can put a rifle through and get to most
Yeah.
directions. Wow.
So right over here is the shower room. And actually, they said that the temperature and the amount of water is controlled when they gave the showers, which makes me think of Alcatraz when we did the tour there. It was the only prison that actually gave them warm water because they didn't want them getting used to the cold water and being able to get in the water to escape. So I'm going to assume the water is pretty cool in here. Mark, why are you in the hole?
Come on down into the hole here. So every movie you read, you go to, always has, throw them in the hole, and you look at these cells here, and there's virtually no windows or anything in this room. And when this door is shut, the only thing you could see would be the light around the crack. You'll notice they were probably sleeping on the floor on a mattress. This sign here talks about the fact that these lights then would be turned out and that door would be shut, and everybody in here is in complete darkness. And bread and water would be issued twice a day, and the inmates were checked on 3 times a day. The lights were all turned off. Every 3 days they were finally given a hot meal. But then every 10 days they'd bring them out, they'd take a look at them, they'd make sure that they're all in one piece, and they'd throw them back in here. I imagine it didn't take too many times for you to be in here, and you would maybe try not to get it. Yeah.
Looks like this is where they would eat. Looks like in here, you get to see the tunnel. Oh, I think I lost Mark.
So finally, this is the tunnel, number 28. And the door would be shut and locked. And every X number of feet, the tunnel is locked, so that if the tunnel was compromised in one area, they could continue on. But you can see that these tunnels, they go different areas.
Yeah.
And if you know where you're going,
It looks like it was probably from the entrance, huh? Because it goes up. That must be that trap door.
no, I would not say that.
You don't think so?
Those go up all sorts of areas. This goes throughout the whole facility.
Right.
So that could be going up to the dance hall for all we know.
Oh my God, I'm thinking that. All right, let's get out of here.
Pretty cool, Loy. Look at this. Some switch gear. I would keep track of that.
Gosh.
Chapel. Yeah.
Well, that's from the chapel.
Yeah.
You can see, I was wondering why it would be open, but it's not. They can close it.
Yep.
Yep, that's where we were.
Wow. Yep. You got to keep track of things. So you can imagine that there was a regular route where this could be opened, and at a moment's notice, all of a sudden the door, hey, you guys behaving yourself in there?
Oh my God.
You know? So we're in the women's and maximum security area. Imagine how difficult of an experiment it was to figure out that you shouldn't house female inmates in the same building as male. Duh.
So one of the big things with the women area is that they finally had an area outdoors that they could go where there weren't the men around. And they also had women that were in charge of them. I think they called them like a matron that would oversee things.
Well, they even had what they called a dark cell here, but it would have been called the hole, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Even for the troublemakers over here.
And you're banned. This, I assume, is their exercise area, separate from the men. But even with this, they said there are very few women that would come outdoors. Wow. All right. Just like a bench bed.
Yeah.
No toilet.
Once again, the women get ripped off. This
No
isn't
running
looking
water.
better.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the older buildings, unlike the one that was built in 1912, where they did have running water.
That's one of the suites. It's a deluxe.
Yeah.
So as we had talked, this building here was the women's prison for a while. But then after the inmate riot, they moved the women inmates apparently to a different facility. I think it actually was across the street, one of the museums that's changed into something else now that we might go to. But over here, Sue, eventually, as you got back in this building, these cells got more and more reinforced, bars on top, bars in the back before you even get to the concrete wall. And over here is the equivalent of the hole. These are called the black cells. When this door shuts, the only light that comes through is here, and even they said those lights are turned off. And then you're sitting in here by yourself. This one here shows you a little bit what it looks like. I'm sure this has been repainted many times. This is probably current graffiti, but you can imagine that was always done. Listen to the way this door sounds. Come over here.
It's like a scary movie.
And then if this lock is out, you pull this handle. It runs all these bars over against the doors. Once this lock is shut, you're pretty much in there because you're over there, and what you've got to destroy is over here. I hate that. I hate that when that happens.
And back out of the women's area. So this is the Sally Port, where they have a two-door system. So you pull your vehicle in, lock the door behind, inspect it, and then you come in. Same as when you're leaving. You come in here, they lock you up, They inspect your vehicle, and then they let you out.
Yeah. You can see these doors. They kind of do look original, even though they're only wood. You can see that big beam would swing across.
That's what's holding you back.
Yep. And it would lock on this padlock that was here. Let's go check the paddy wagon out.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's a gimmick.
So here was one of the more intriguing things about this prison. Apparently in 1919, using money donated by W.A. Clark Jr., who was the son of the Butte Copper King in the area, this beautiful theater was built for the inmates' use. Now the privilege had to be earned, and the theater soon became kind of the pinnacle of the prison disciplinary system, because if you had that privilege yanked, I'm sure you were a lonely dude. The 600-person theater was used for a variety of events, including boxing, traveling theater troupes, movies, plays, concerts, meetings, and the prison band would perform here, as well as religious services. There was a library also located in the basement. Fortunately, this facility was around for 56 years before it was gutted by a fire in 1975, and the inmates had to endure 4 more years before the prison was closed without having this beautiful place to help pass the time of day.
So we're on our way out. What are we going to do now?
This was a fascinating tour. I hope when we do the editing to put this together that it's as engaging as it was for us. But like any inmate here, and we were only temporary inmates, we're going to choose now to leave, and we're going to go to the prison pizza restaurant across the street.
Let's do it.
So one of the channels I periodically watch is Eric on Nomadic Fanatic, and he will park his rig anywhere, any place, and just get out and tour. And I gotta hand it to these folks in back of me. They just pull over their giant fifth wheel and they go, "Hey, I want to go to this prison and check it out." And you know, as it turns out, there's some RV parking in the back, but it's certainly not as convenient as this. Pull in, pull out, you're all done.
As long as there's room, why not?
Sue, I don't know if you're as disappointed as probably every prisoner in there would have been that they couldn't go to the pizza place, but we can't go either because it's closed and it opens at 5. So let's go back to the rig. It's only 1.5 miles away, and let's chow down now, and we'll come back for the car museum.
Sounds good. Look at how he's hanging his head so low.